everybody, and welcome to another episode of Horror Movie Night. This week we are talking about Blades from 1989, a film that just gets funnier and more charming the more times you've seen Jaws. Scott, can you tell us a little bit about what led you down the path of picking Blades?
I don't know. I think it might have been before Kyle was even a full-time member. I was like, guys, we should talk about Blades, and it's about a killer lawnmower. And Kyle was like, fuck yeah. And you were like, and I'm like, it's distributed by Troma, and you're like, So
yeah, I mean, I've had the Troma triple header DVD that this is on for many, many years.
What else is on that one?
Bloodhook and Zombie Island, or Zombie Island Massacre. But here's the best part about the DVD, because it's Troma, so you can't even skip the introduction to the movie before the movie starts. So the beginning of the movie is Uncle Lloyd and one of the many Tromites, and he's talking about how this is a brand new technology called DVDs, where we can fit 3 movies on a single disc. And he's like, but we don't have the budget for 3 intros, so we're going to do all of them at once. And he's like, so thank you for watching. And then 3 Lloyd Kaufman heads pop up and say the name of the movie at the same time. He's like, directed by, and then the 3 Lloyd heads come up and say the different names at the same time.
That's amazing.
I love it.
That's absolutely amazing.
So the version I got to watch was just as exciting because, well, not just as exciting, but because it didn't have the Lloyd Kaufman intro. However, it was the Vinegar Syndrome Blu-ray, so not only did I get the Vinegar Syndrome porno guitar before the menu, but then I got the Troma distribution song after I hit play. So I got and then I came and fell asleep. I didn't even watch the movie.
Yeah. So I've seen this. Kyle, I know this. I know the answer to this question thanks to the fact that I am now also regularly using Letterboxd. So I know that this was, in fact, not your first watch. No. Scott, this was also not your first watch, right? Or was this your first watch?
This was my second.
Okay.
Because I was like, I want to do this movie. Let me watch it. And I watched it, and I was like, this is, like, funny, but I don't know if we can get the funny out of it. And last spring, I told Kyle that we would do it. I figured it had to be around May that we would do it. May or early June. I think this actually is going to drop in June. So I got it right, more or less. But I was like, I'll watch this one beforehand to make sure. And then so I watched it 2.5 times. Okay. I watched the first half of it, or I'm sorry, the middle of, I don't know how to explain it. I jumped around a bit. The talking is annoying. The killing is fun. Hey, let's put that on a shirt.
Yeah, I'm gonna slightly disagree with you, and I'm only gonna say it because of this. And I don't know how many times Kyle has seen Jaws, but I can go on the record and say that I've easily watched that movie over 100 times. So this movie, if you are the die-hard Jaws fan that I am, even the minor details and scenes, like the attention to trying to hit every moment of Jaws throughout the telling of Blades, is such a charming delight. And it was funny, I had a friend over here when I was watching it, and he said something that was wildly profound, which he's like, this is like Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, but they're not winking at the camera nonstop. And I was like, and that's why this works. Dude, like, yeah. They are very straight-faced about everything that they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. There's like maybe a couple funny lines. If that and like more than anything, it's the whole idea that this is happening at all, which is hysterical.
Yeah, and the funny but the funny lines are funny in the same way that any movie that they would shoot at a golf course would be funny. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Like one of the first lines of dialogue.
I would argue that you're not correct in that, because we have Caddyshack, and this doesn't hit the same beats as Caddyshack. It has some, but I think that it's got its own thing going.
It's got its own thing going, but I'm saying, like, there's the one line. It's very early in the movie. It's probably one of the first laughs that I got. Was you've got the owner of the golf course, and he putts the ball, and he asks his caddy what the score is, and she says it, and he goes, man, that's the first time I've been in double digits since I bought the place. And she goes, maybe next time we can even do the full 18.
Yeah.
It's like
That was a good. I didn't get that the first time. I definitely got it this time because I don't think I hit it last time.
Yeah, dude.
No, I think I just got it right now.
It's okay, Kyle.
This is
We never really
live.
pegged you. Yeah, we didn't really peg you as like a guy who plays any sort of sport.
Apparently, you're not a golfer, and that's what I do. I just quote movies instead. That's my sport, and I'll quote them incorrectly too.
Scott, I got to ask you because we've established that one of us hasn't watched one of the greatest TV shows of our current generation. But when the main character was introduced as Roy Kent, how excited did you get? Because
This
screamed.
was the first time watching it when I realized that the character's name was Roy Kent, and I was like, it's all in caps in my notes. So yeah,
It says Roy Kent. What am I watching? Ted Lasso? But yeah, so the movie. I'll try to walk us through this a little bit in the beats of Jaws. But obviously, Jaws starts off with the skinny swimming, skinny dipping scene
dipping?
in the
Matt, come
ocean.
on, dude. You got to give him the
Skinny
right.
swimming.
Got to give it credit for what it is.
That's true.
It's just like swimming in a little.
And it starts
like,
with a group
Swimming
of
in
like
the nude scene.
Yeah.
yeah, it's got a group of hippies hanging out by a fire, and then two of those hippies venture off to go swimming.
Are they hippies? I thought they were just supposed to be college kids.
According to the book, it's described as like a hippie like gathering, and in the movie they just kind of
No, they're just kids.
it's
but,
just kids
yeah.
in the movie. But
I mean,
the
they're
book, it's-
27-year-old kids.
I mean,
Yeah,
look,
yeah. Any
there's a
slasher
lot of
kids.
guitars and tambourines there. That seems pretty hippie to
It
me.
could
but
easily have been from a summer camp slasher movie, which is
Yeah.
also the reason why I had to have this in May or early June.
Yeah, no,
definitely.
exactly. So they recreate that scene. Two people go off to make out or whatever, and then basically the music is Jaws in like a slightly different key. Like it's like bum 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 bum. It's very
It's more a surprise than itself than Jaws is.
But something that we don't get to see charges at them as they scream. Credits. We begin Blades. And this is where they find, in Jaws, they find a single arm lying in the sand, and they know something is afoot. In this...
No, something is an arm, Matt.
Oh,
I thought
at
he
least
was
a
going
hand.
for that, and he just didn't take it.
Nope, I did not. In this one, they just find a whole shit ton of bloody body parts just like smashed
But all the
in
clothes
the sand
still
pit.
intact.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic.
Which is well, every time they show clothes, they were always intact. And I was like,
Well, we
okay,
can see mutilated bodies, but we can't see any dick or balls.
no
or
dick or
titties.
balls.
So,
No dick and balls. Well, because those balls end up going to the pro shop to become golf balls later on. It's like it's one of those collection machines too.
1,000%. So then in our next beat of the movie, we are introduced to victim number 2 and his dog. And I love the dialogue in this scene because the way he's talking, it's like when you watch an action movie where they're setting up that the cop is almost like a week away from retirement. Yeah. And it's like supposed to make you feel bad because he's just like, it's a beautiful day. What bad could happen today? Anyway, I'm going to go golf. And he like walks off with his dog. And it's a brilliant reversal. I love the Jaws reversal because in Jaws, the next victim is a dog that goes missing. And the owner is on the beach calling for his dog, and we see it off screen. In this one, the dog is calling for his owner as he goes off into the woods and gets killed off screen by something. We don't know what. Blades, the name, is a hint, I guess.
Yeah.
And the Evil Dead shot that continues to happen through the grass is a good. Maybe it's low to the ground. Maybe it is the dog.
Look,
maybe
it could
the
be a
dog
killer
is-
gopher.
no.
That's all.
Yeah, a killer gopher.
And like now it's like getting ridiculous. So the next victim in Jaws is a kid at the beach, and holy shit.
Dude, the best.
This kid getting sliced up by the lawnmower.
That slow mo.
Oh my! With
The
the
blood
blood just spraying
Yeah.
everywhere.
Love it.
It was
and-
great.
and-
Quickly before that, my favorite character comes in, the coroner. That when
Yeah.
Roy asks to have
The piece of
ball-
evidence that
yeah,
is
the
a
piece
golf
of evidence,
ball?
he goes, "Sure, I don't see why not." And, like, I burst out laughing.
There's
And I was
also
like,
a reoccurring character being chased by an electric golf bag that just keeps showing up in the movie, and I feel like it's supposed to be like, huh?
well, and we're, you're telling this movie in the beats of Jaws, and I watched a little bit of the special features on Vinegar Syndrome, and the producer clearly was like, I want to make a spoof without it being spoofy. He was like, I want to just like straight shoot. And I was like, I was glad that was the case and that they didn't set out to make a spoof that turned out to be unfunny. You know what I mean? I'm glad it wasn't the reverse where it was like, there's not a funny, like, I mean, there's funny moments, but there's not like the winks that we're talking about in this.
It's the sincerity
like
that makes it work.
Yeah.
It really works because it's so sincere. Kyle, so for the people who are listening,
what's in your hand though, dude?
Ooh, what are you sipping on over there?
Let me tell you, it's a fucking 24-ounce spiked Arnold Palmer. Because we're on the links today, boys, or whatever.
Kyle knows a little bit about what you do when you golf. I have something too, and it looks like all the whiskey that Roy Kent drinks in this movie, but it's actually TV whiskey, movie whiskey, because it's just iced tea. But it's not just any iced tea.
Okay.
It's Armless Palmer from Liquid Death.
From Liquid Death. Look at that.
So I feel like we
cheers.
Same minds.
So good.
Clink.
So good.
we don't know where the arm went.
Yeah.
Yet. We haven't found the killer. It could be the guy with no hair.
It could be. The guy who looks like the lead singer of Midnight Oil. Yes, it could be him.
Where they like, they just fucking arrest him and they're like, now that's checked.
We'll get.
Oh, excuse me.
The best line of the movie comes from that dude, and his like monotone delivery kills me. But we're not there just yet. So those of you who listen to the podcast but don't visually see the podcast, on the Patreon you can watch the video. And Kyle always has a background. And I'm happy with the background he picked. But let me tell you that when I was watching this movie, I would have bet hard money that he would have used the backdrop of this horrendous bar set that someone made for about $10
Classic or something like that.
Yeah, that's just like a friend's table with a single fluorescent bar sign behind it.
Yeah.
Listen,
that's how you know.
Troma couldn't pay for anything. I understand this was a distributed Troma
1,000%.
Right? Yeah. They couldn't pay for the rights for a movie that had a real bar in it. Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Because that means
you
craft
paid that
services.
bar. We're not. Yeah.
Yeah. Not happening.
So this is the point where, as the Jaws fan, my joy just could not be any higher. So in the movie Jaws, little boy gets killed. Everyone sees that there is in fact a shark. The mayor says, "Hey, we're gonna here's a bounty for anybody who can catch this shark and kill it and bring it to me." So they go off and they're hunting, and this is where they find bald red herring guy with his lawnmower, and they're stringing up the lawnmower exactly the way that they hang the shark that they catch in Jaws. And then in the movie Jaws, Richard Dreyfuss is like, the bite radius of this shark doesn't match the wounds on the victim. And I love that he's like, the cut radius on this mower wouldn't match. Like, they talk about the cut radius. And then immediately the next scene is in Jaws after they catch the shark. The mother of the son who is killed walks up and slaps Chief Brody in the face and yells at him for I heard you knew about this and you did nothing. And they just completely redo the entire scene. It is so fucking funny. And then the final
something about her husband looking up to, like, excited to learn from him or something.
Yeah,
it was so good. He was.
I love that I didn't pick this, but Matt, being such a Jaws historian, that he can fill in all the shit to make it sound like we did this on purpose.
Oh my god. And then so the last piece of it is there's a scene after they catch the shark. Richard Dreyfuss and Roy Schneider are sitting down at a table and they're sharing a beer, and Roy Schneider's like, you really don't think that that's the mower? And he's like, let me cut it open to find out. And this is where we get this brilliant scene of them just cutting open. Hilarious, because you could just take the bag off. Like, cutting it open is so unnecessary. And the full untouched Playboy magazine just dropping out with the leaves. Like, such a dumb joke got such a loud laugh out of me. Though. Like just it's so brilliant. It's so fun. Look, I'm on a real big high because the most recent Weird Ass Movie Night we end it with Student Bodies, which is also a delight. But that is like wearing its spoof very clear on its sleeve. Where this is so like there's these the Playboy moment is like full spoof, but like the rest of it is just so goddamn sincere. It's so played straight. Like it's pretty incredible. And it's like, but it this is gonna sound so fucking corny, but it really like feels like it opens up towards the end of the movie where you just
that's corny as fuck. All right, Kyle.
Yeah. You just sort of realize the ends of which they went to like really make this movie complete. Like they're shooting this movie on a golf course, clearly in winter. Like there are no leaves on the trees; they're all on the ground.
It definitely was a reshoot. I think it was a reshoot because most of this I can't tell when, because I don't know if you guys know, but I would never discuss a spring movie in the fall, a fall movie in the spring, etc. I mean, I might do winter in the summer if it's like halfway to Christmas, or I might do summer in the winter because I don't like being cold, but I'll never mix spring and fall.
This is the thing that you listeners need to know. Scott is a man of morals. And code.
Yes.
And Kyle and I are just chaos demons.
Yeah. I'm trying to live a little bit by Scott's code because I think it's fun. The same way that I wish you would, Scott. Live by our moral code. Why don't you listen to the teachings of Jesus Christ for a little bit, Scott? Okay.
So
you know, I get memes, and I'm like, I don't think these guys would like these memes. You know.
There's some stuff we don't share. I don't share about my picks and my seasonal picks with you, Scott. You don't share your religious memes with me, and that's okay.
Anyway, so
no, it was a reshoot because the rest of it didn't look like that. But that final
like
triumphant scene,
the very early fall. But then it's not even that whole scene. It's like 2 shots. Well, they just did not get good cuts of it.
Well, we gotta get there.
Fuck, I guess we're going back in November.
Yeah,
you know?
we gotta get there. So we finally get the reveal of this lawnmower at the big golf tournament that they decide to have. There's a character that they've established as a horrendous cheater at golf, which, whatever.
The guy in the yellow trucker hat?
Yeah.
That one?
Yeah, and I thought he had a toupee, but then he took his hat off, and I think it was just really severely dyed hair.
Yeah, no, it wasn't great. But he gets sliced up. It's insane watching this mower. It's killing all of these people on live TV, and this is my favorite line delivery, is as the chaos is happening, it cuts back to the prison cell where they've arrested the big bald guy, and after all the chaos, he just goes, so you want to let me out now, or?
Oh, yeah, and he's got the bubble gum on his face. Yeah, like, this cop is just completely flabbergasted.
Yeah, there's also a fun part in that same scene where it cuts to the TV room where they're like splicing together the tournament for live television, and this guy goes, camera 2, move in, and camera 2 is literally these 2 baby legs kicking underneath the lawnmower. That's the guy getting mauled. I loved that, but then the fun thing is that I only have 2 like trivia pieces, and this is one of them, because there's just not a whole lot out there written down about this movie. So the guy who said that camera 2 move in, I believe he was the director of the movie.
He was. That was
his director's cameo.
Yeah. And then of course you're doing a Jaws parody. We got to get to the final scene of Jaws, the infamous Shark is Broken stories of 3 people boarding a ship to go find this shark, and they board a van, and in Jaws again they shoot barrels into the shark to try to bring it to the surface. In this one they drop balloons, and in a stunning element of detail in the movie Jaws, it takes 3 barrels to bring the shark to the surface. When we finally see the lawnmower, there are in fact 3 balloons wrapped around the top of it. Like, it's just, it's that type of shit where I'm just like, God damn it. They did so much fucking homework and attention to detail. And I know like saying that they did homework sounds ridiculous, but keep in mind,
We watch a lot of shit that does not do any
Yeah.
homework.
well, it's not. It's not even that.
does not care.
It's
It does not
it's
care.
this. This is what I'm thinking about. There is a very famous fan film, arguably the most famous fan film of all time, which is the shot-for-shot Raiders of the Lost Ark movie that a group of high schoolers made in their backyard in 1981. What makes the shot-for-shot remake so impressive is that the only way that they could do it was that they just kept seeing the movie in theaters and writing down all of the details for every scene because there was no VCRs, there was no way to rent the movie and rewatch it. Now, we're talking about like 1987, so we are in a bit of a VCR boom, but it's still very early to be doing something that's this focused on catching every little detail of what you're making fun of. So it's like it's kind of awesome, right? Then we get to obviously the famous kill in Jaws. The shark hunter falls into the mouth of the shark, and our big bald super lawnmower expert just
Mr.
Clean just falls right into these blades. And Jesus, the shots of him like with sliced up legs, and then it's like like him being drug away, like flailing and screaming.
So good, dude.
It's so good. It shouldn't work. None of it should work. But
None of it should work. I was trying to explain to my coworkers today that I preferred this movie than the one that we watched, the more well-known one that we're going to watch the following week. And I was like, I was just waxing poetic about Blades, and they were like, "So you're gonna buy that giant Arnold Palmer for this, or what?" I said, "Yes, give me 2." No, I didn't take 2.
Here's the big question I gotta ask you guys: they kill the lawnmower, it's all over. Did you guys stay through the entirety of credits?
I found out via IMDb, and I'm so mad I didn't have time to go back.
So for your benefit, Scott, the movie, as the credits roll, there's just like the sounds of the news broadcast about the events. And then as the last credit rolls, it cuts to the man who was trimming his hedges in the middle of the movie. And his wife calls him in for dinner, and he drops the hedge clippers, and he goes inside, and the camera slowly starts to pan towards the hedge clippers, and like it slowly builds up to it just starts running, and then across the screen the words say hedges just when you thought it was safe to trim. And that's how the movie ends.
Yeah. Also, funnier part about that is that today on my lunch break I trimmed my hedges. No joke.
Oh,
See?
you were like,
I didn't know about the
Is that your
the
double
hedges.
feature?
Yeah.
your lunch break.
My lunch break.
My lunch break where I trim the hedges.
Well, the thing is that I did read that trivia that it's like hedges just when you thought it was safe to trim. And I was like, damn, I didn't die from that today.
Are we still sponsored by Manscaped?
Not anymore, but we should be, guys.
We failed real bad on that guy.
At Maximum Mediocrity, people say things like,
I don't dress like this on the regular basis. This isn't my, pooping uniform. This is not.
and they also say things like,
The nurses are usually either angels of mercy or whores.
every episode is a new experience where you get to know people that aren't famous but should be.
Why did my facing Floyd Mayweather in the woods?
My co-host Morgan and I track down the people you didn't know you needed to hear from.
It's like hot sex in a mug.
We are the Maximum Mediocrity Podcast, and we are on all major podcasting platforms. We'll be waiting for you.
Scott, this was a great pick, man. That's what it comes down to. This was
I
one
think
that I
you
doubted
enjoyed
for
this
myself.
more than like any other movie I've done in 9 fucking years on here.
I was very excited to sit down and watch Hedges for sure.
Well, it's because we're never going to do Jaws.
No.
We just did Jaws. Thank you.
But we might have some sequels. Who
Yes.
knows? Scott.
I've only seen Jaws like twice, I think, in my life.
Well,
Sorry.
I can fix that.
Yeah, I was about to say, Matt don't ever tell Matt those things.
Yeah, just lie and say, oh, I've seen it a ton. Scott, what was your double feature with Blades?
So I wanted Bloodhook, but I did not know, one, that was going to be the next movie that comes up on Tubi when you like it says like, next up, Blades or Bloodhook, and then it makes a whole lot more sense that Bloodhook was on this triple feature with Blades from Troma. So I mean, I'm sticking with it because they both
it seems
feel
like everything's
very
telling
similar.
you that it should be Bloodhook.
Yeah, who am I to tempt fate this way?
Yeah, exactly. You trimmed your hedges, like everything's coming up.
And that's
Scott.
not a euphemism, I promise. It literally.
How about you, Kyle? What would
Matt, can I actually have you go, Matt? Too much?
Sure.
Okay.
I went with what is the most obvious Matt Kelly pick. Not Jaws, but Caddyshack.
Oh!
I'm
So
not going to your house.
I told Carly that Scott was going to pick Bloodhook, and I thought
No.
I thought Matt was going to pick Jaws the Revenge, because he wouldn't pick Jaws because we already watched it via Blades. So I really thought that he was going to pick Jaws the Revenge. I, too, was going to pick Caddyshack, but that means I will pick Jaws the Revenge for this. So
Everybody wins.
I love that.
wins.
I love that. I
Everybody
literally
wins.
wrote Caddy. This is the only time I've ever written this. I wrote Caddyshack, and then in parentheses I wrote obviously. next to it, like,
It's just so I mean, between Bloodhook and Caddyshack to me are the perfect pairings. A Jaws sequel isn't necessarily the one, but I really thought that you were gonna pick that.
No, this movie's such a delight. This is going on my long list for weird ass movie night. I just have to find the other movies to truly pair it with. Maybe Caddyshack and Bloodhook. Who knows?
Bloodhook would go up there. Makes
Scott,
sense.
what did you watch, read, listen to, etc. that you want to talk about?
So, I think that this is a little different than usual, and it might be a little contentious.
All right.
But I needed to say something. After Kyle suggested that I read some Joyce Carol Oates, I read a couple, not reviews, but suggestion things about like where to start with her short stories. And The Doll Master sounded good. So I rented it or borrowed it from the library via Libby. Awesome. If you have a library card, get the Libby app. It's phenomenal. If you don't have a library card, get a fucking library card. They're free. You pay for it with your taxes. So you don't have to pay for books unless you really like them or if they're out of print. But I read The Doll Master, and I read the second short story in that anthology, I suppose. And I really didn't like it. Tell me that there's something about. So first of all, have you read The Doll Master?
So I've not read The Doll Master, so I can't totally speak to it.
Okay, I burnt through it in a night because I was so frustrated by reading Doll Master for the previous 2 nights. There's something about her. I gave her a second chance, like on a second. I gave the second story a chance because I really hated the affectation that she took on to write the character for the Doll Master. That I was like, oh, she must just be doing it to show that he's a fucking weirdo murderer. After reading the second story, I can't tell you if that's true or not.
Yeah.
She seems to have a really, really weird, abrasive writing style for me, the way that she strings sentences together. And I wanted to know if that's something that you've had experience with or not. Have you noticed anything like that, or is that just, did I just get unlucky with 2 short stories in a row?
Well, so I realize now, upon my suggestion, that Joyce Carol Oates' body of work is very extensive. So the Oates that I've read and that I enjoyed, and I would say that I sort of suggested, was more of her stuff from like the 80s.
Okay. Like what? Can you give me a suggestion of...
Yeah, so I would recommend a couple things. I'd recommend the short story that comes to mind immediately is one called Where Are You Going, Where Have You Been? It is what the film Smooth Talk is based off of, with Treat Williams and Laura Dern. I would say it's more of like character thriller. Like it's more character-based thriller than like horror or supernatural horror or something like that. And then there is a short that is the first short in a collection called Nightside that is all about seances, but it's told through journals. And I loved like the story about like sort of like this sort of unbelief in seances in the time of like the 1890s, you know, this sort of like rise in spiritualism, but then this actual medical discernment about it too. And then I would also recommend just the novel Foxfire. Like Foxfire is this like 1950s teen girl like attitude rebel era like novel that is really fun. They remade it into a movie that was like contemporary starring Angelina Jolie that doesn't quite do it justice, but Foxfire is a really great novel. It's not super long.
Okay.
But I see where you might get that hang up because I would say her other stuff that's not horror related is a little dense. I really like it, but it is sort of dense and drawn out and just like blah. And if you can't commit to, like, it's not your fault.
No,
I'm not saying, but it's but if you like don't get sucked into that or can't commit to like trying to like chew on that world, which I've fallen into on some of her short stories, then that's the case.
Yeah, well, maybe I just need to. I'll give the
where are you going? Where are you going? Where have you been? A chance, and then try one or two stories from the night side because those are more like supernatural based or like based in loss, which can sometimes be a little bit heavy, but sometimes there's something to chew on there. So.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's fine by me. I mean, I'm always open to. I would have immediately written her off and not said anything. Another one that comes to mind that I actually bought is called the Croning by Laird Barron, I want to say. And, I have not finished it. I got about 20 or 30 pages in, and it pissed me off so bad that I put it down. But I had purchased it, so I will get back to it sometime. So I do have this weird
now.
thing, financially
invested.
But I just have this thing about writing styles where if it doesn't. If it grates on me, I have a really hard time following the story. So that was my thought process there. So I will give it another chance. I will report back. I will give her another chance. Report back. If we're going roundtable though, then Matt, I think you're the next in line, right?
I want Kyle to go next because whatever Kyle picks in this will probably determine what I go with.
Okay, yeah, I know what you want to talk about though.
Watched a movie called Suburban Commando
the
other day. A good friend of mine, Matt Kelly, brought it over. And I will say this. We went to bar trivia before that. Bar trivia went about a half hour over what it normally does. And while it was a blast and we came in 3rd out of 16, coming home, getting ready to watch Suburban Commando because I had to put the little man down to bed. Well, Carly had to put the little man down to bed. I wanted Carly to watch with us. It took him a little while to get, not that long to get to bed, really. But in the grand scheme of things, after the night that we have had.
He was excited after meeting his new best friend, Matt.
Well, yeah. I mean, the kid loved Matt, which was awesome.
Because we were on the same intellectual level. So, like... He said, finally,
they
up
answered
here.
the same amount. Yeah, they answered the same amount of trivia questions. No, that's not true. Hunter answered more. But Suburban Commando was put on, and I dozed a little bit towards the end of it, but let me fucking tell you something. It also got me confused with Sidekicks. I keep getting it confused in my brain with Sidekicks. For some, just that, like the 90s feel of it was very apparent. But fucking Hulk Hogan is one of the worst. He is one of the worst actors that I've ever seen. And we talked about this maybe on the podcast before. We were talking about like what professional wrestlers became the best actors. Or maybe it was off the record, but we had talked about Batista being up there as probably the best of the actors that came out of WWF, WWE.
Yeah.
Then maybe John Cena, maybe The Rock after that. But he's just playing The Rock, and then maybe John Cena.
And then John Cena once he decided to do comedy roles. Because John Cena was dog shit doing, like, The Marine. It was like, nope, this isn't working for me.
No, but then fucking, Roddy Piper's in there somewhere.
But only because of They Live, ultimately.
Yeah. Really? Yeah. I mean, yeah. And Hulk is really close to the bottom, dog. Like, he sucks. He sucks. And he had hair extensions atop the skullet that were very apparent. and it was rough. Like I enjoyed the watch, and I think I would like to. No, I wouldn't watch it again. But I was really happy that you brought it over.
I think my favorite part of the watch was when you went to go give it a score on Letterboxd, and you looked at me and went 3.5 stars.
There's this sort of thing on Letterboxd that people do, and I think I've heard Elric Kane talked about it, where they really don't give any movie under 3 stars because movies are so hard to make, and everybody should fuck that. This movie, actually, what did I end up giving it?
1.5.
Okay, yes, correct. That's the right score. That's the right score.
Not 3.5. Got it. Okay.
But hey, man, listen. We do this show for a reason, and it's because I like watching movies with or without you, but then talking about them together. It's always a blast. So I'm glad we got to watch it, and then I got to discuss it here the same way that we all watched Blade separately, but now we get to talk about it here.
Yeah.
It's such a joy.
So after I finished watching Suburban Commando with Kyle, I went and spent a night at my friend Alyssa's house. We did a lot of cool stuff. We went to Sleepy Hollow. We went to the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery. We found Washington Irving's official grave plot. Got a picture there. Saw the original bridge that the story is based around. Went to the Lyndhurst Manor, which is the first Gothic building ever built on American soil. It's dope. So if you're ever in Sleepy Hollow, it's like 5 minutes from Sleepy Hollow. You should go. It's $18 for an hour-long tour of the entire manor. The manor was left to the state of New York, and with all of the furnishing, so it has the original everything from when it was built.
That's such rich people shit. Oh, my house is so fantastic.
Yeah.
I'll leave it to the state.
Well, the thing that blew Alyssa and I's mind was there's a library in there that's just filled with books, and you can see on the spines of the books, like published 1576, like these are like crazy old books, but there's like 8 witchcraft books in a row. And we're like, what's the deal with the witchcraft books? And she's like, one of the owners was very much into the occult. And then she just like kept moving on with the tour. And I'm like, can we talk more about...
Wait.
Yes.
Excuse me, another question.
Yeah, excuse me. But so then we get back to Alyssa's house. We record a couple episodes of her podcast, and she's a big horror buff. And I said, I brought 2 movies for us to choose from. You can go spooky or you can go kooky.
Nice.
And she said, well, how spooky is spooky? And I said, I brought probably the most disturbing movie in my entire DVD collection. So I really recommend we go kooky here. And she was like, let's go spooky. So I rewatched for the first time in probably 5 years the Poughkeepsie tapes.
Oh, I'm mad at you.
Here's the thing about that movie. I think that movie is it's a really tough watch. But every time I watch it, I feel like this movie is fucking incredible. And I think it's incredible for the following reasons. Reason number 1, they have created a villain that is the most detestable evil character I think I've ever seen in a piece of fiction since possibly Blue Velvet. Like, dude's fucking unhinged and horrific. Secondly, the attention to detail to make this feel as authentic of a documentary as possible is really, really cool. And then thirdly, it's weird to watch that movie in 2023 where there's like a new, very exploitative true crime documentary every month on Netflix and think that like in 2007, this dude was making what is essentially every Netflix true crime doc now as a mockumentary. Like there's a lot of cool elements to it. I don't recommend. Like, this is not a movie where I'm
very
like
grudgingly agreeing with you right now.
Yeah,
just
like
so you know.
like it's. I think that I think that the ends don't justify the means, but I do think it's an interesting thing to look at and study in that lens. And it's a movie that actually sits with me for days after I watched it. Like, it does feel like it affects me in a way that most movies don't. So just a very soft look. Like, if you're one of those people who, Serena, I'll call you.
She's the first person that came to fucking mind. That woman
if you
is
haven't seen
obsessed
this,
with the worst.
Yeah, if you
it's
haven't
not French
seen
Extreme, I don't want to kind of.
But I
promise you, she's watched the Poughkeepsie tapes.
1,000%. But I also want to end on a slightly solemn note. Someone that is kind of deeper rooted in horror movie night lore than I think most people know. My good friend Joe Robinson unfortunately passed away. This will be almost 2 months after the fact. I'm not sure if you guys know this, but Joe Rob is the person who told me how to sign up to be a vendor at Monster Mania.
You did not tell me that.
Yeah,
No.
so he was a volunteer at Monster Mania for many years. We were working together at the time. He knew about the podcast, and he said, "You should really consider vending at Monster Mania. Like, here's the link. Like, do." And he really pushed us to do it. He pushed me to quit my job and do podcasting full time. He was always a person that was very motivational and supportive, and we're definitely gonna miss him. It was a really great time. We did his memorial yesterday at the time that we're recording this episode, and it was a sad time. But seeing Cody from Studio House there, and Dylan from Christmas 665 came up, and Sean and Allison from Monster Mania were there, and it was the entirety of the band cassettes. Like, it was a nice little reunion. The memorial ended at 8. And we didn't leave the parking lot until 11 p.m. We were sharing stories and laughing. And I have a funny story to send us out on, because Joe loved good fucked up humor in his...
Like bringing the Poughkeepsie tapes to somebody's house.
Yeah, bringing
and
that to
showing
someone's
them.
house
Yeah,
who
that's
lived
good.
in and around Poughkeepsie. So we found out about Joe's passing on Tuesday. And I'm not sure if anybody listening has ever been part of the inner circle of knowing someone has passed before it's public knowledge, but like there's this weird holding period where you have this information, but like you want to express your sadness publicly, but you're kind of waiting for like the family or the best friends to like express it first. So I'm doing the thing that people do. You're like checking the deceased person's Facebook page, and you're like creeping on the Facebook pages of like the people who kind of have the okay to be first to talk about this. Mm-hmm. One of which was his old roommate and best friend. And I see that his roommate has finally posted. And I go to his Facebook page and I like the post. Directly beneath the post of my friend passing, our mutual friend passing away, is a post that he's looking to sell a DVD VCR TV combo. And I immediately thought, oh, I want that, but this is not the right time. and I stared at it for like a solid minute, being like, should I message him about the TV?
You're like, man, like, listen, like, our friend, man, the best, like, this is so tough. What's up with this?
Yeah, is
What's
the
up with
TV available, and can you bring it Monday to
Can you
the
bring
viewing?
it, to the celebration of life? We can celebrate.
It was a Facebook Marketplace thing, so I eventually
You should have
clicked
just
it
gone,
and
is this
saw that it was
available?
sold.
Because like, the auto, is this available?
But yeah, that brought some levity into my life that I
That's
absolutely
beautiful.
needed. So
Did you tell him? Did you tell him at the
I didn't.
celebration?
I told everybody
know.
else, and they were dying. But I was like, I don't know him that well to tell him that story.
Sure.
And I feel like it would also feel like I was still subtly being like, so what's the story?
So what's up with that? Yeah.
So,
You've been eyeballing it for a week, Matt.
yeah. So anyway, what I'm saying is, Joe, this episode on Blades from 1989 is dedicated to you. I'm gonna miss you, buddy.
job.
You were a funny, kind human being, and we should all strive to be the same. Check on your friends. If you're ever in a bad place, don't be afraid to reach out for help. That is like the biggest thing that you should ever take away from a horror movie night episode. And we'll be back next week with even more horror movie night goodness.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.